Hello and welcome to my escape. Doing my November wrap-up today. It's a little bit into December, but I didn't want to do two wrap-ups back to back. So after this video, we're fully caught up and I love making these videos anyway, so let's get into it. So in November, I read 9 books, 4 fantasy romances, 4 contemporary romances, and 1 dark romance. It's a lot of romance. What can I say? As the semester kind of gets going and, you know, I have more exams and more assignments, romance is easy to escape into, and it just takes stress off. It relieves anxiety because I know it's a guaranteed happily ever after. I'm not going to be left on a cliffhanger. So it is what it is. So this month I was actually looking for like a fantasy romance series, which is nice because I haven't been looking for series for a long time because I've just kind of wanted like standalones and something that I don't have to like commit a lot of time to. So feeling a fantasy romance, I finally hopped into Lady of Darkness on KU, which I've been wanting to start for quite a while. We follow our main character and she's one of these like wraiths of death, and it's like her and these 2 other people, and the 3 of them are like the deadliest, scariest, most torturous assassins out on the market, and everyone across all the kingdoms knows their name and they're a force to be reckoned with. And yeah, they're just scary, I guess. But for some reason our wraith of death is like contained to this manor that she has no like relation ties to, so we don't really know what's keeping her there or why she's being like put there, but we do know that although she can like leave, she always has to return. And the assassin lord is trying to like get her back into the fold and is bribing her with hints of like who killed her mother or who had her mother killed. She's like, ooh, I'm tempted, but then her friend is like, hey, let's solve this mystery of why these kids in our neighborhood, like the assassin neighborhood, are all disappearing and where they're going and why they're never coming back. So you have to infiltrate the palace for answers. And while all that's going on, this general's introduced and she's like, he's pretty good. I should train with him and like sharpen up my skills because I'm no longer living in the assassin neighborhood, so I can't practice with all my assassin friends. So then she's getting closer to this guy. While there's also another guy there that's just super creepy and like won't leave her alone, and it's just a huge walking red flag. So there's a lot going on. Then she's kind of pulled into this world of vampires and fairies and witches and who's who and who is she and yada yada yada. It was a lot. But you know what? It's setting itself up for a 5-book series, so you know there should be a lot going on in it. I kind of summarized it like that because it didn't really strike me as an amazing read. I only gave it 3 stars. I don't know if it was because they needed to narrow the focus a little bit or just because it was too like formulaic, because pretty much everything that happened you knew was gonna happen. You were just waiting for it to come. And then the other thing that really bothered me with it was she's supposed to be this wraith of death, okay? 3 of them in the kingdoms, notorious across kingdoms. Tell me how you're getting got so many times. You cannot tell me you're one of the top 3 in all of the kingdoms, plural, and then get got like this time and time again. I can't be having it, okay? It's that whole thing like show don't tell. You can't just tell me she's the best, prove it. And although this book did try to prove it a little bit, there was too much that happened outside of that I'm like, but how? With that said, I did kind of enjoy it while I was reading it, and I am excited to see where the series goes, so I didn't want to give up on it. And I actually jumped right into the second book. I can't get that much into it because it is like a series, and I would spoil the first if I really told you what's happening in the second, but she's just getting pulled deeper and deeper into this world and trying to figure out like what's going on and like what are these mysteries. And yeah, I think that's all I can tell you on that one. Pretty much the same gripes I had with the first one. I also rated this one 3 stars. I had fun while I was reading it and like I enjoyed it, but at the same time it's very formulaic. There was nothing really shocking or like a stunning twist that occurred. A new character was introduced in this one, which I wholeheartedly enjoy. I actually accidentally started the 3rd one before the second one. Like I just downloaded the wrong title and it opened on a new POV and I was like, no, I could not care less about you. Why are you on my page? Absolutely not. And then I jumped back to the second book where I was supposed to be, and by the end of the second book, I was like, oh my god, give me more! I'm so happy that 3rd book starts with them. So, you know what? Props. Because it's very difficult for me to care about another character once the story's already been established. Like when authors try to introduce a new POV down the line, very hard to sell me on it. But this one I actually did enjoy. So I am continuing with the series. I didn't pick up the 3rd one this month just because I actually had to get some work done. And this is my thing about series, is that I have to read it all until the last book. But that's a different thing, okay? I like to read series like back to back to back to back normally, but when I do that, I get like too immersed in them, and then I don't come up for air or do anything else around me, which is why this year I've really tried to like pause in between books in a series. And this one I kind of felt myself falling down into that trap. So I put a hold on the third book, but I definitely will be coming back to it, probably honestly in December, because I do want to get back in the series, and we'll see where it takes us from there. And then the third fantasy romance I read this month was The Maiden and the Unseen. I have wanted to read this for a long time. And by a long time, I mean like maybe a couple months. But when it first popped up on Instagram, I don't know if it was not released yet, but when I checked KU didn't have it and my library didn't have it. So I was just kind of waiting until one of those picked it up, and KU suddenly picked it up. So I was very excited to get into this one. It's Persephone and Hades retelling. They're actual gods, and it's modern day, and the gods can come and mingle with human society, but they just can't tell anybody that they're gods, and Hades bankrolls them. So Hades gets mad when Persephone is trying to like sneak under his radar and like not tell him that she's there and like not follow the god rules and stuff like that. So he hunts her down and then forces her to work for his company because he just can't stay away. And then it's just a lot of tension from there. So this is definitely a story of smut driven, not plot, not characters, smut driven. And it was kind of disappointing, to be honest. I gave it 2 stars. Anything Hades and Persephone, I will eat up, but that's all this book had going for it. The characters' motivations and actions made no sense to the character themselves, and they were just so whiny and annoying, and they overthought everything, and I'm not an overthinker, so I couldn't relate, and reading every page of just them overthinking in both point of views, I'm like, grow up! You are both well over 200 years old. Make a decision. Stick with it. Move on. So, didn't love that. And then the other thing was, like, I was kind of interested in the side characters, and they were literally just left in the dust 30% in. Like, they were kind of established early on, and then they were just absolutely forgotten about. And, I didn't like that. I didn't appreciate that at all. And the fourth fantasy romance I read this month was Hexes from Exes. And it was just a super fun time, actually. So I read this in the first couple days of October, coming off of, like, Halloween, so it still kind of follows that vibe. But it was just fun. It's not anything too deep. It opens on these 5 guys, and they all like have the same ex-girlfriend, and they're like, we hate that she broke up with us all. How dare she? We're gonna summon a demon and curse her. And then they do summon the demon, and they were like, oh god, we thought this was just jokes, but okay. And then the demon goes to like enact the curse, and she goes, hey, that's not fair. Do you have any idea why we broke up or why I dumped them? And then he's like, well, no. She's like, how is this just? Give me an opportunity to prove that they are actually the ones that suck. And the demon's like, okay, if you can prove that, then I'll turn the curse around on them. So then it's her going through like her whole list of exes, because he can't tell her like who made the deal, going through her whole like, list of exes, and then having to go on dates with them and having this demon watch over to see if she was actually right in breaking up with them. Hilarious. Imagine having to call all your exes up and then go on a follow-up date. Could not be me. I'd be like, just curse me out because this is already hell. Anyways, it was just fun, and then interspersed in there, you see like the demon going back to hell, and there's like cubicles in hell, and it's ran just like our society, and there's currency, and there's bosses, and it's just a great time. It's a great time. So there's like slightly like a bigger conspiracy unfurling that I think will like cross a couple of like standalone books, and I definitely would pick up this next one when it comes out, but I believe this one was only released in like September of this year or something, so I'll be waiting for a bit. But it was just fun. It was just 3 stars. It's not something I'm gonna think about forever, but I enjoyed it while reading it. It was a balm to the soul, and yeah, just I loved that there were cubicles in hell. It was a blast. The only dark romance I read this month was Better Run. I use the term romance loosely because this is not a romance, this is Stockholm Syndrome, and that's coming from somebody who reads a lot of dark romance, where that's a factor in a lot of them. This one is just straight that, and there's no like icing or sugar coating to like sweeten it up for you. No, none at all. This girl gets kidnapped for no apparent reason and is held captive in this cabin in the woods with these 2 guys who are psychopaths, and she hates it the whole time she's there, and there's like super traumatizing stuff that goes on, and yeah. I like dark romance, I do, but again, this lacked any form of like romance for me. I ranked this one just like in the middle. I just gave it a 3 because it was well advertised. I will give it that. Like, it did clearly state what it was going in. I just guess I didn't believe it, because a lot of dark romances kind of say the same things and then there still are romance in it. No, I should have believed the beginning of this book when it was like, hey, this is what you're getting yourself into. So I'm not going to tank it for that sake, because it is, you know, accurately marketed, and that's on me for picking it up, expecting something different. But in terms of like my own pleasure, I didn't enjoy reading this one. So into the contemporaries now, I read Captivated, which is a Tessa Bailey novel, and it's not a cartoon cover. I didn't know she wrote novels without cartoon covers. I didn't know. But anyways, this was kind of fun. Our main girl is Australian, and she came over with her boyfriend to New York City, and then he cheated on her and left. And now she's like, I know nobody in this city. Do I move home? Do I stay? What is happening? And she's just kind of like wallowing in her apartment. Like, very recently since the breakup, she's just like wallowing in her apartment, being like, what do I do now? And, you know, she's in sweats and she's drinking whipped cream out of a can. And as everyone does when they wallow, she's drawing very explicit, very detailed, very kinky, very dark comics of her landlord storming her apartment. So yeah, I mean, naturally, that's what everyone does, right? Right? Anyways, some stuff happens, and the landlord gets a page of one of these comics, and she just dies of secondhand embarrassment trying to figure out how to get it back from him, while he looks at it and goes, okay. So, I mean, of course he's into it because it's a romance, so gotta be, but he kind of goes, hey, I'm interested in exploring this with you, but I feel like you have to be more comfortable with me, because they really don't know each other, and he's kind of like an imposing guy. So he's like, you have to be more comfortable with me if we're gonna explore these things, so we're gonna go on 3 dates to like bridge that comfort level and bridge kind of like that knowledge gap. And she goes, well, I mean, if you insist. And yeah, so then it's just kind of like their story from there. The beginning was hilarious and so cringy, and I knew it was gonna happen because it's on the back of the book, but I internally cringed so hard for her, and I was like, it's time to move back to Australia. There's no recourse to this situation, and you must move in the next 5 minutes. But no, that's not how the story went. It just kind of tapered as the story went on. He had some like very reclusive tendencies. Like, it is Grumpy Sunshine, but like he had like extreme reclusive tendencies, and then when they were like explained or like validated, I was like, that's jokes. Like, that's legitimately jokes. 10 years, buddy, get over it. I'm sorry if that's not compassionate or empathetic enough, but honestly, no. And if you couldn't get over it in 10 years, it's not gonna be the difference of this like sunshine girl. If you can't get over your stuff in 10 years, that's therapy. That's extreme therapy that you need, not kinky sex. So sorry to say it, but yeah, I gave this one a 3 stars because, again, I was like really enjoying it for the first like 50%, maybe a little bit more. I was like, oh my god, yes. And then his backstory came out, and every time he was on a page, I was rolling my eyes. I was like, absolutely not, sir, absolutely not. So it definitely, but it is what it is. And then I read one that I've seen on the book platforms for maybe about 2 months now. It's called Out on a Limb. Again, I've seen it on the platforms before. People have really been enjoying this list, and it's made a lot of their like best reads of the year list or like top read of the month, stuff like that. And I thought the cover was cute, so I hopped into it. Oh my god, did this book let me down right from the start, though. There was no nice build. I'm sorry to say, I gave this one a 2 stars. I'll just say that outright. So many people love it, and I truly don't understand what I'm missing. And even like a week after I finished it, one of my favorite creators put it on her page, and she was like, oh my god, I absolutely love this book. Why did I put it off for so long? And I was like, what am I missing here? But I don't know. So take this following review with a grain of salt, because most people don't agree with me. It's a one-night stand surprise pregnancy incident. A big component of the book is that they both have disabilities. So she has an underdeveloped hand and he has a recently amputated leg. So it's just them kind of like finding comfort in each other and finding a balance on life and figuring out how to raise a child while also becoming friends and maybe more. Shocker. I was so bored. I was so incredibly bored. And I'm sure if this was a real relationship, like if this was one of my friends, I would be so happy for them. I'd be like, wow, what a healthy, loving, naturally progressing situation you have going on here. I'm so happy that you have found this. But reading it was so boring because there was no conflict. Where was the conflict? Where was the issue to overcome? There was none. There was none. The girl was kind of original in like the dreams that she had moving forward, but the guy was Mary Sue. I don't know what the equivalent of Mary Sue is for a guy, but he was a Mary Sue character. He was super attractive and rich and funny and successful and patient and kind and understanding and nerdy, but to the perfect level, and blah 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 blah. He also did not have a single thought in his head outside from her. And that irritated me. That irritated me a lot. Didn't have any dreams outside of her, didn't have anything outside of her. No. He did have a backstory, but even that wasn't like, a lot was open to interpretation or like implication. And I was like, I would have liked to have dived. Actually, no, I can't even say I wanted to dive further into his backstory because I honestly did not care about him. Like, he was cute, he was adorable, but he wasn't a person. So overall, it was really not for me, and it was not what I thought this book was going to be, and yeah. And I mentioned the disability thing just because, like, it was so prevalent throughout the book, and it is featured on the cover, and I know that lots of people are always looking to, like, expand their rating and, like, diversify it. This is, like, decent disability representation, I would say, but overall, the book was not for me, and I would not recommend it. So another book from the book platforms that have been up there for probably more than a year is Things We Never Got Over, and I finally read this month, and I actually really enjoyed it. Like, really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. This cover is awful, and I had seen it for so long and never picked it up because of this cover, and I'm shallow. And I looked at this cover and I said, not for me. I can tell you right now, that book is not for me. Didn't know what it was about. Nothing. And then last month, or the month before, I think, the 3rd book in the series came out, and I heard a little bit about the premise of that one, and I was like, ooh, I'm interested. Let me start with the first and see where it goes. Things We Never Got Over. Runaway bride blows into town, trying to meet up with her sister. Her sister robs her blind of everything, takes off in her car, and leaves our main character with a niece she never knew she had that she's now in charge of raising in this small town she doesn't know. Her sister also made a lot of enemies in town, and the girls are twins, so then everyone thinks that our main character is like this evil, like, person, and she's like, oh, I'm actually super nice and a sunshine character. Let me change your opinions. So there's that. And then of course you have like the grumpy town fix-it man, and he's like, oh, I can't just leave these 2 girls on their own. Let me set them up with like a place to live and a connection to the community and support them in every way I can, while also being a dick, acting like I hate the world and like they're the bane of my existence, even though I refuse to stay away from them. So despite all that, I really enjoyed it. I was like giggling and like I got all like the warm butterflies, and I really enjoyed it, and it was really cute. Did the ending need to be that dramatic? No. Did this need to be like 500 plus pages? Also no. But here we are, okay? I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, and I actually would recommend this one. And I enjoyed it so much that I immediately went into the 3rd book in the series. I looked at the 2nd one and I said, no, this is not for me. Too much stuff going on just in the description that I didn't like, so skipped it because they're standalones. And I got right into the 3rd, okay? Picked it up back to back, same series. This one's 592 pages, and the first book is very similar in length. For me to be ready to jump into that world immediately, that tells you something. That tells you how much I liked the first book. So this couple had been teased back in the first book, and it was like friends to enemies to lovers, like childhood friends to enemies to lovers. You don't really know what happened between them. You don't know if it's like a second chance situation or if there was like a great betrayal or like why they hate each other, but you know now like they cannot stand each other. Like they can't even be in the same room together. They just despise one another. And it's their love story. Sounds great, right? Like true enemies to lovers, true hate to love, but with childhood friends thrown in. So you'll get the backflashes, but you also get the enemy to lovers. You know, great. No. Another book. Huge letdown. I gave this 2 stars. I went from a 4-star to a 2-star back-to-back in the same series. That's wild. Okay, you would normally think that I have enough love for the first one to carry me through some like iffy parts of the next one. No. Not the case. And I've tried to summarize this book so many times, but it's just getting too long. So I figured the best way to articulate it is just read you my Goodreads review, because it nailed it on the head, okay? I said, way too long for the story being told. Way too rushed for a 20-year animosity, because they really just jumped over that whole thing. Way too immature for 40-year-olds. When they got to the part where she was like 39 and he's 40, I said, excuse me, and you're acting like this? Jokes. That's jokes. Absolutely not. I spent most of the book annoyed, waiting for something amazing to happen to understand why this book is rated so high, and it never does. This is a 4.46 rating on Goodreads. 4.46! That's insanely high. Insanely high, and I don't understand it. I really don't get it. So I 100% would not recommend this. This was just irritating the whole way through. I didn't like either character. I didn't like their feud. I thought the whole thing was ridiculous. I thought the fact that they were 40 and still acting like this and communicating like this and treating each other like this was ridiculous. And you got none of the tension of like a childhood friends to enemies to lovers. There should be so much tension. You got none of it. You got none of the tension. So yeah, was not for me, did not enjoy it. But those were the 9 books I read in November. So overall, not a great reading month for me, honestly. Like, my highest book was a 4-star, and there was only one of them this month. And a lot of, like, very, like, mid and lower end things. So, not a great read. But at the same time, a lot of those 3 stars that I really did enjoy. Like, Hexes from Exes was a lot of fun. Lady of Darkness and Lady of Shadows. Those I did enjoy while reading it, and like I did enjoy them as a book. They just aren't anything like amazing to write home about. But I did have some like good reads throughout the month, but it definitely was not my best month. Let me know down in the comments what you read this November, and like how overall was your reading month. Did you have a lot of like great reads, or did you have some like iffy reads, or what was your overall rating, I guess, of the month? For the rest of September, I'm really excited because I'm going to try to do like a little bit of Vlogmas. Not every day, because I cannot commit to that. I got too much to finish in my semester and pack, but I'm excited to do like that kind of style of content and see how it goes. I just like learning new things on here and trying different types of videos. And then it's gonna be what I've waited for all year, where you get to go and tier rank everything you've read throughout the month. I watched so many of those last year. So many, like my whole December, that's all I watched was people tier ranking the books I read. And I'm so excited to try it myself. Lots gonna be coming in December. I'm really excited about it. But for now, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I post videos every Friday, sometimes on Tuesdays when I'm feeling it, so ring that bell for notifications and you won't miss anything. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye!